as we chat up Conor O'Neill, Devils Illustrated, Deacons Illustrated, who joins us on the Adam Gold Show. Duke, after halftime, looked much better. They won the game. They had a little trouble with the quarterback from Elon. Now the big challenge, of course, is Illinois. And Wake Forest blew out Kennesaw State 10-9. 10-9, Conor O'Neill. I don't want to spend a ton of time with the Deacons, but let me just ask you this. Was that a bad sign or just a bad start?
I'm going to err on the side of just a bad start, only because, to borrow the phrase of another press box colleague, when you build the plane out of DeMond Claiborne and he's out there for 4 snaps, it kind of throws a wrench into everything that you've built your offense around.
Right.
And yes, they need other guys to be good against a team in its first full season of FBS football. They need their offensive line to be much better. But number one is the straw that stirs that drink. And so I want to hold off I'm not saying they're going to win even 8 games this year.
Right.
But I want to see if they have a little bit of a more efficient offense when they have a full DeMond Claiborne.
Gotcha. That is very glass half full. I appreciate your optimism there, Conor O'Neill. That was Deacons Illustrated. Now, let me get to Devils Illustrated, because just having watched the game, I felt like Duke's real problem was that they just couldn't handle Elon's quarterback. With the quarterback run, really killed him, I thought. I thought the other maybe concern for me with the Blue Devils was the fact that apart from really 2 big chunk plays running the football, that side of the ball, that was a concern for me. But what did you make of game 1 for them?
I thought it was a nervous start. That's the way Manny phrased it to us in the postgame, and I thought that was pretty accurate. They dropped a touchdown pass in the first half. They gave up a big kick return that I thought they actually had covered. It was just one guy who took a wrong step and let it loose. They missed a field goal. Darian Mensah, one of the only throws that he missed, he overthrew Cooper Barkate when he was behind the defense that would have been a touchdown if he'd hit him in stride, or at least if you underthrow it, you'd still give him a chance to draw a PI or come back on the ball and catch it for 40 yards. You overthrow him, it negates everything. And I told somebody yesterday, I think those are uncharacteristic things. I don't know if we can say what a character of a team is based on one game, but I think those aren't the things that you would assume are going to show up every single game. And the fact that they addressed them and kind of fixed things and got under control in the second half, I think would give me some positive vibes going into this weekend.
I mean, Darian Mensah came in with all the accolades, and there's a good story that I think Ross Dellinger wrote in Yahoo just about his story and where he came from and what his family has gone through. That's all great, and I think we should highlight those stories. But as a football player, he looked like he could throw, and we know he's not just a thrower. He's an all around good college quarterback. Some people thought he was the best quarterback available in the transfer portal, at least in the initial stages of it. But that was a pretty good way to start your Duke career with almost 400 yards passing.
And that's the crux of why he's at Duke. It's not just that he can throw. It's that he can throw on the run. He can extend plays with his feet. He can scramble to throw the ball down the field. And we're in this weird stage of people think Duke is not supposed to make a shrewd move, like saying Malik Murphy was not good enough last year.
Right.
When he wasn't good enough last year for what Duke needed him to be. It was great that he threw 26 touchdowns. His name is atop that single season list for Duke history. It was great that they won 9 games with a quarterback. And if you just look at the stats and the numbers, you think he had a good season. Parts of it were good, but parts of it were not good. And a lot of it had to do with his inconsistencies and his limitations as a quarterback. And Darian Mensah opens up the offense in ways that Malik Murphy just could not last year. They can run some RPO stuff and have the quarterback actually be a run option. They can roll the pocket, and we saw it on the first play of the game. Darian Mensah sprints out to his left and hits Cooper Barkate for a 30-yard pass. It's just that kind of stuff that you're like, oh, right, that's why they paid the alleged number, the reported number, whatever the number they paid. It's a high number. That's why they went out and did it. That's why a day after Malik Murphy went into the transfer portal, I think it was the Incarnate Word basketball game, Darian Mensah's out there in the plaza getting ready to go into the game.
Yeah.
And he didn't just decide to fly up from New Orleans on a whim that afternoon or morning. So you saw it early. It comes with the caveats of it coming against an FCS team, but that's exactly why Darian Mensah is at Duke.
Conor O'Neill, Devils Illustrated, Deacons Illustrated, at Conor O'Neill _DI on Twitter. So you mentioned Cooper Barkate twice. So transfer from Harvard. And look, this is going to sound obviously gratuitous, but there was a little Julian Edelman about Cooper Barkate during the game, or Danny Amendola. Yes, I just used two short Caucasian wide receivers as an example, but that guy looks like he can legitimately play.
So the fun part of this is Duke has gotten Ivy League guys in the past couple of years, and they've turned out to be really good players. Like Caleb Krings, I think I can't remember if he was an Elon or Ivy. They've gotten these guys from the Ivies that have turned out really well, but they've usually been like in the trenches guys or a linebacker. You don't think of the Ivy League as producing star skill players. But the thing you have to realize about Cooper Barkate is he played at Mater Dei out in California. I think for us at Rivals, we have them at number 1 in the country right now. Uh-huh. They're a powerhouse. Cooper was a legitimate 3-star, had offers to go play power conference football. He chose to go to Harvard because he wanted to go to Harvard. He thought he would be there for 4 years, and then he realized, hey, if I'm on the football team, I'm here in the summer, I can take summer classes, and he graduated in 3. So he's actually got 2 years of eligibility at Duke because he redshirted his first year at Harvard. But he's not your typical I think some people would just assume that a Harvard wide receiver who is the complexion that Cooper is would be slow.
Right? No, and it's also not small. He's over 6 feet tall. So it's like maybe the comparison was ill-advised. Maybe I should have compared him to Adam Thielen. I don't know.
There you go.
But he looks looks to me like a legitimate threat all over the field. And look, good for Duke for finding a legit, I think, a guy who can make plays against anybody during a game. I realize it was just Elon. So let me kick this forward, Connor, to Illinois this week. Obviously, not only a Big Ten football team that you would assume is going to come here with beefy offensive and defensive lines, but there's a lot expected of Brett Bielema's team. They came in preseason top 15, no matter what poll you wanted to look at. What is the challenge for the Blue Devils this week?
I think the first thing Duke has to do is they have to pressure Luke Altmaier. When you're talking about a guy who's in his 3rd year as a starting quarterback who has, I can't remember his stats from last year, but I think he was in the range of 20-some touchdowns and maybe only 5 or 6 interceptions. He's just become really steady. He's a bit of a fourth quarter whiz. I think in his Illinois bio, he's credited with 5 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter or overtime in his career. So he's a guy, like, Duke has to make him uncomfortable. If Duke cannot get pressure with either 4-man rush or bringing blitzes from different places, which we know Jonathan Pack, he loves to do.
Right.
If they can't get to him in time, it might be a long day for Duke's defense, which was not all that impressive against Elon. They had a couple problem areas. I mean, the quarterback run was a legit problem, as you said. So that's goal number one. Goal number two is, I mean, it's one thing to bring back 16 or 18 or that high double digit number of starters. Well, no matter what you did the previous season, it's another thing to do that when you won 10 games. Like, this is a team that knows how to win and is old and experienced. And if Duke happens to take the opening drive down the field for a touchdown and then gets a turnover, it's not necessarily a team that's going to be phased. Like, this team, you're not going to have any panic like that. So it's going to be a 4-quarter game, as bad of a cliche as that is. And I think this does come down to which experienced team makes the game-defining play in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, look, I have total confidence in the Blue Devils. I don't know, will they be able to match up against Illinois' offensive line? Is Duke going to be able to run the ball, which, as I pointed out before, other than 95 of their rushing yards on 2 carries, and the rest of the day were a bunch of 2-yard gains. So they're going to have to be able to run the ball against Illinois, and I just don't know if their defensive line, as good as it is, because I think it's a good one, but I think Illinois is probably going to try and run the ball down Duke's throat, no?
So I think Duke's defensive line is a little top-heavy right now. I feel great about the top 3 defensive tackles they've got with Aaron Hall, Josiah Green, and Preston Watson. Feel great about Duke's top 2 defensive ends, Vincent Anthony Jr. and Wesley Williams. I think both could wind up on all ACC teams this year. You just don't know who the depth comes from after those. And Duke rotated a lot of guys at the defensive end spot and that 4th defensive tackle spot against Elon. And against a team with all 5 returning starters, all 5 O-linemen are returning starters, a Big Ten team that, even though Manny says the Big Ten has evolved past just playing brute football, I still think it does. You can't avoid some of the stereotypes that come with it,
right?
And and look, Duke's linebackers have to be better than they were last week. I think collectively on Pro Football Focus, that was probably the harshest graded group across both sides of the ball on Duke for Duke. So I think Duke is going to have to prove it can stop the run, or the point I made about pressuring Luke Altmaier might become moot. Like, if they put up 250 rushing yards on you, it's not going to matter whether you pressure Luke Altmaier, because he's only going to drop back 15 to 20 times.
All right, final thing for Conor O'Neill. Devils Illustrated, Deacons Illustrated at Conor O'Neill _DI. I know you paid attention Monday night. What are your thoughts on, like, is that this is basically the same question I've asked everybody after week 1. Is what we saw truly alarming, or do you think that was just week 1 and maybe TCU is legitimately good?
I lean more toward the latter. Man, I'm really being glass half full today.
You are very optimistic guy. That's why we have you on, Conor.
It was a positive chat with Victoria before coming on, so that's where all the credit here goes. No, I mean, TCU might be legitimate. Like, that's kind of getting lost in the sauce and lost in all of their Twitter gloating. They might be a legitimate top 20 team in the country. So I don't know that anybody in their right mind was thinking Carolina would be a top 20 team in the country this season.
Right.
The concerning part is kind of the effort that showed up when things got bad. It's the tackling was atrocious for a staff that allegedly has some football geniuses.
Right.
That's where I don't know how much of the next 3 weeks is really going to tell us that Carolina has fixed that.
Right. I said yesterday that the only definitive proof we could get out of the game at Charlotte would be bad. Right. If they're no good against Charlotte, then we know that this team is no good and won't be any good this year. But if they go down there and blow out the 49ers, we're going to go, yeah, how good is Charlotte? We probably won't know until Central Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. My one prevailing thought is just there are no shortcuts in college football. You cannot buy your way into having a CFP contender or a legitimate program with good roots and a foundation that you can build with. I know everybody wants to draw the Indiana comparison and use what they did last year, but Kirk Cignetti brought a ton of players from James Madison who had been in his system, and they targeted the right players in the transfer portal. And you just didn't see that with this staff. No. And how could you? They're not college guys. So
yeah, it's funny.
Maybe they figure it out. I just don't know.
All summer long, Chip Patterson saying that there wasn't the same level of talent in the transfer portal this year than as had been in past transfer portals. So that even put Carolina further behind it. And Indiana also had the advantage of having a trash schedule that anybody was, so they were able to kind of ease into it. Carolina's schedule has been ridiculed, but for being easy, but that's mostly what we look at in terms of conference games. The non-conference probably isn't going to be that easy, having to go on the road to Central Florida for their fourth game, not to mention they're on the road. I still don't understand why they're playing at Charlotte, other than it's still in state at least, but just would make more sense to play this game in Chapel Hill. Conor O'Neill, Devils Illustrated, Deacons Illustrated at Conor O'Neill _ DI. My friend, thank you very much.
Thanks, Adam.
You got it.